Well, friends, it seems as though it is over. It seems as though it's pretty clear at this point that Nikki Haley never stood a chance. It's over. Of course, it seems clear to literally everyone except for Nikki Haley. She's the only person who hasn't gotten the memo. This thing is absolutely over. But of course, just as expected, I predicted this. I think most people predicted this. Not exactly a hard prediction to make. Nikki Haley announces that she's sticking in the race. And so the sabotage continues. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's have a conversation about why this is happening. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so Nikki Haley announces that she plans on continuing in this race.
Now, you've all heard the chatter among the political class. They're falling all over themselves, saying this race is over. Well, I have news for all of them. New Hampshire is first in the nation. It is not the last.
And so here we go again. I guess the pain and the frustration continues, as if it wasn't painful enough to have to deal with her for however many months it's been. Nikki Haley announces to the world that the torture continues. And of course it continues, because Nikki Haley isn't actually running for president. She doesn't actually think that she stands a chance in South Carolina, or any other state for that matter. Her entire purpose here is to sabotage the Trump campaign. Nikki continues to claim that she's not funded by Democrats. She's not running to benefit Democrats, yet she has Democrat mega donors giving her money. She's got Democrats voting for her in the primary, and everything she does seems to benefit the Democrat Party, Joe Biden's re-election bid. And we know this because leftist pundits are essentially saying the quiet part out loud, both on CNN and MSNBC. Don't really need too much context, just take a look, it'll make sense.
We asked folks coming into the polls, do you identify as a Republican? Do you identify as a Democrat, or do you identify as an independent? And here's what we found in this exit poll so far, and I think this jumps right out at you. A minority of voters in this first wave of the exit poll in the Republican primary identify as Republicans. A majority, 53%, identify as either independents, 45%, or, and this is a high number historically, 8% identify as Democrats. For some context here, in 2016, the last competitive Republican primary, presidential primary in New Hampshire, the electorate was 55% Republican. It was 42% independent, and it was 3% Democratic. So in this initial wave, you're seeing some significant differences from 2016.
Take a look at the numbers. Among Trump voters, 70% of them, according to our exit polls, are registered Republicans. Donald Trump, his support, 27% of his voters are registered undeclareds or independents. 3% were unregistered before today. Look at how that compares with Nikki Haley. It's a complete reversal. It's an alternate universe. Among Haley voters, 70% are registered undeclareds. Only 27% are registered Republican.
Obviously, Nikki Haley continuing benefits the interest of Joe Biden's re-election bid. She wants the Trump campaign to be forced in a position to have to keep spending money on the Republican primary rather than shifting focus on the general election, where all the money and energy ought to be spent. And you know the crazy thing? It's all about the Benjamins, baby. It's all about the Benjamins. And you know what? If anything, this proves that Nikki Haley is not an authentic candidate. She's more of an industry plant, because obviously she isn't raising all of these funds from a Republican grassroots level when the party is so unanimously rejecting her. But then, of course, the Nikki Haley shills on Twitter will attempt to make the argument that actually that's a false statement. Look how competitive the race in New Hampshire was. I mean, really? We're talking about New Hampshire? Possibly the only state that Nikki Haley could even come close to being competitive in. Let's not forget that she came in third in Iowa, below Ron DeSantis, accruing less than 20% of the vote. What we saw in New Hampshire is simply a New Hampshire phenomenon. And let's also not forget that the majority of people who supported Nikki Haley weren't even Republicans. Oh no, but that's fake news, says CNN's Caitlin Collins.
That's what his concern is. That's why he's been talking about and pushing a false claim that Democrats can vote in today's election. As we know, they can't. The cutoff, as every official in New Hampshire has reminded us, including Republicans, was back in October. But Trump has been pushing that.
No, of course not. Democrats aren't voting in New Hampshire. No, never. Even though this is a clip from CNN literally the same night.
Nikki Haley.
And why did you vote for Nikki Haley?
It's a vote against Trump. I think it would be better to have her against Biden in the elections than it would be Trump and her.
Do you consider yourself generally independent, Republican, or Democrat?
Democrat.
So when you undeclared, You voted for Nikki Haley. If it was Nikki Haley against Joe Biden in a general election, who are you voting for?
Joe Biden.
What is the
Literal Democrats voting in the Republican primary. Oh, maybe they're not registered Democrats. Right. You know, it's probably the craziest part of the New Hampshire Republican primary is that a minority of people who voted on the day were actually Republicans. Take a look at this from NBC News. Play the clip. Literally less than 50%. A minority of people who voted in the primary based on exit poll data were actually Republicans. Many of them identifying as Democrats or independents, many of them simply registering to be able to vote in an effort to sabotage Donald Trump.
Christian, who did you vote for and why?
Yeah, so thank you. I voted for Nikki Haley, and it was certainly a strategic vote. I think the DNC is fairly resolute in their nomination for Joe Biden. And while I wouldn't vote for her in a general election, particularly on our differences with climate change solution, a woman's right to bodily autonomy, or incarceration rates, I think a vote for Nikki Haley helps diminish Trump's influence in the RNC and their nomination, but is also a vote towards democracy.
And Christian is emblematic of so many conversations that I've had here throughout the day.
A, quote, strategic vote. These people wouldn't even support her in a general election. They're simply attempting to diminish Trump's influence. It's not me saying it, that's a literal direct quote. I mean, absolutely disgraceful from Nikki Haley. She's got to be the biggest fraud on the frickin' planet. I mean, for Pete's sakes. Even Mitt Romney's niece, Rhino, Ronna McDaniel, is urging Nikki Haley to drop out of the race.
Looking at the math and the path going forward, and I don't see it for Nikki Haley. I think she's run a great campaign, but I do think there is a message that's coming out from the voters, which is very clear. We need to unite around our eventual nominee, which is going to be Donald Trump, and we need to make sure we beat Joe Biden. It is 10 months away till the November election, and we can't wait any longer to put our foot on the gas, to beat the worst president, to beat a president that's kept our borders open, allowed fentanyl to pour through, allowed inflation to go rampant. He is hurting the American people, and we need to do everything we can to unite so that we can defeat him.
Everyone wants Nikki Haley to drop it, to stop it and get some help.
Stop it. Get some help.
But of course, she could be ridiculed across the globe. The entire Republican Party could request that she just stop, but she will not. The only thing that's going to stop Nikki Haley from running is if the donor bucks dry out. Democrats are hoping that the donors will continue to push her, though the sabotage continues, but I'm not so sure how long this gimmick's going to continue. It seems as though Democrat mega donor Reid Hoffman has already paused his support of Nikki Haley's campaign, as you can see by the headline here. And so I guess we just have to wait for the Democrat bucks to slowly dry up. What an absolute clown. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.